Hey, welcome to the channel. Oh my God, have we got a great one? All things business episode. Sorry, fifth episode, but this is version number two. And we're so excited. One of my high school buddies, who's a professor, is joining us today. You saw it dropped on all the channels today, all over the country and the world, actually. And we're so excited him to be on with us today. So here's my dear friend, he's also an author. He's a professor. Can we get my dear friend William? I call him Kenny Wesley. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
I am thriving, Abe. How you doing?
Man, if I be any better, I'll be triplets. Hey, I want to thank you
I
for
hear you.
joining us tonight. And your video earlier came across all the platforms around, and we thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on board with us tonight. And I want to kind of go back on some things you talked about earlier that I thought was pretty significant. I want to kind of maybe dive in a little bit deeper. You said you
Okay.
came up in the hood and you grew up and
hmm
you start playing tennis. Let's take it. Well, I tell you what. Before I go into tennis, tell
hmm
everybody a little something about you that you want to share with people a little bit about you before I dive into the tennis.
Got it. Well, the quick down and dirty, yes. Originally from the projects, came up through the Baby Hunters Point, and I was blessed to actually have two fathers. I had an alcoholic, abusive father, and then I had the guy who raised me, who showed me what a man was. But I also was able to compare those two things. And watching what he did and watching what he said, and the biggest thing, and I share it all the time. I spoke yesterday and I talk about it because it is the crux of, in my opinion, of success. And he said most of the things that happen to you happen because you either allowed them or you caused them. And he knew there was sexism, there's racism, there's homophobia. But what he was talking about were those 10,000 decisions we make this month. If you don't stop at a stop sign and you see the stop sign and you go through and you get hit by a car, you can't say, oh God, right? God says, oh, I showed you the stop sign. So my point is, there are some things that are macro. I can't do anything about inflation. Micro is, what can I do in my household if inflation is out of hand to reduce what
Hmm.
I spend? So my simple point is, control the things you can control. And surprisingly enough, successful people know they can control a lot. Unsuccessful people feel that things outside of them are controlling them. So that would be the
And
single thing I would say that launches success.
in reality, they could control it, but they don't think they control it. And I think it's a simple
That's
way out
exactly
for
it.
them to blame somebody else rather than take 100% ownership in their life. Is that correct?
That's absolutely. I mean, your life, my life. And we look around, we see people who fell by the wayside. And if you have interviews with them, and I've done this just talking with people, what happened? Well, this happened and that happened. And then I talk to other people. Well, I did this, I overcame that, I failed forward, right? There's some failure in your story, there's some failure in my story, but that is the process. You have to run over these hurdles. And so I think it's absolutely fact.
Yeah. It reminds me of a story I heard on Johnny Carson one time. They were interviewing these two brothers. One was an alcoholic and one was a prominent doctor. And they asked
Mhm.
the prominent doctor, why was he a prominent doctor? He said, what else could I be? And they asked the alcoholic son, why were you alcoholic? He said, well, my dad was one. What else could I be? So
Mhm.
absolutely. I love it. I love it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's just so important. Now, I love the idea when I was listening to it earlier today. As I was listening to it, I got up this morning at 2 o'clock. I've been up since 2 o'clock this morning, and I was on the
Mhm.
channel listening to yours this morning when it dropped at 2. I was
Mhm.
number 3. I said, people got it before I did at 2 in the morning. Listen to this one. So that says a lot about you. But I listened. I was loving the idea you talked about the tennis player. When you go a little more depth on the tennis player as you became playing tennis, because I know we always play tennis. You, and James. So
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of tennis, I mean, just anything else. I met some great tennis player. I chase the ball around the court, and now and then I hit it. But what I learned, especially just learning how to play a little bit. So here we are, kids, and we have these little wooden rackets, and we begin to learn a little bit. And my mom, who was a big fan of Thea Gibson and Arthur Ashe, basically got some Salvation Army tennis rackets. And I didn't tell this part of the story, but Salvation Army tennis rackets. And we just went to Silver Terrace, right, and hit the ball back and forth. Didn't know what we were doing. As I get a little bit older, here I am in Woodrow, and I began to hit a little more. And I realized, and I want to go to a different piece on the story, but I realized I've learned some stuff, but that really wasn't enough. And actually, not too many years ago, I decided to take tennis lessons because I've ingrained so many bad habits. And what it really taught me was, one, no matter how old you are, if you stay open, you can learn some new stuff. right? So the guy says, okay, let me see your forehand. Okay, and let me see your backhand. Now let me see your forehand with topspin. Let me see your backhand slice. Let me see your serve, right? So he takes this snapshot of me and he says, when you serve, your arm is whipping back. That's why you have to go back and get the ball. My point is this: every there are people out there who know more about stuff than we do. We don't have to do it all. We have to reach out and get the key information. And there's
Hmm.
an incredible, I call it the law of ego. The law of ego says, everyone, you feel very good about me when I listen to you talk about you. I feel very good about you when you listen to me talk about me. And if you get that, then you listen to people and all that. But if you get this other piece, and the other piece is everyone you ever meet knows something interesting that you don't know. So if you're hungry for that, there's a lot of resources out here. There's a lot of stuff. If you want to learn AI, it's all over LinkedIn all the time. Free course, free course, free course. And you've got to if you're going to live in this environment. AI is not the future. AI is here. The only question is whether you leverage it and do things with it.
Right. That's a very good point because I always tell people, you think you're smart, if you think you know it all, like you said, ego, edging God out. I said, if you
Mhm.
think that's go visit a library. It'll show you how much you really don't know.
Exactly. The most
You know,
intelligent people I've ever met, and you're one of them, is they realize there's so much we don't know. I'm smart, but part of my smarts is I know I don't know everything. So I'm constantly asking. I have 20-year-olds in my circle. I have 35-year-olds in my circle. I have 50-year-olds. I have people our age in my circle. But I'm hearing from my 23-year-old who does my social media, oh, you should do this, William. I'm like, okay, because that wasn't even part of my landscape, right? I hadn't
right.
even thought of that. And because you can't think of everything. Now you want to make sure you're getting this broad section of opinions. And you can do that. Just be open, just be friendly, and ask. There are so many people who are standing there waiting to help if you ask. And they get the endorphin satisfaction of just doing something good and doing something right. And there are tons of people like
Yeah. Also, I was listening this morning. I love the idea you talked about exposure, how you expose a lot
that.
of things. And how would
Mhm.
you look at it today, modern kids coming up and how you and I were exposed? What you say is the biggest differentials that you could see that it's kind of pulling on your heartstrings today?
They have everything and nothing, right? I'm in an airport, as I'm in an airport twice a month or so, and I'm sitting in an airport, and I always look around and see what's what because we came up to be aware of our surroundings. So I don't
Yeah.
bury myself in my phone. I look at my phone and I look up and I look around and I bury it for a bit. And I look up, right? Anyway, I'm watching this father and son. It's got to be father and son. The kid is about, I don't know, 6, and his dad is with him, and the dad is just swiping on his phone. The kid, he's by the window where you can see the plane out there, and he's like, and I can't hear what he's saying, but I know what he's saying. It's like, Dad, look at the plane, right? And then he comes back to his dad, and the dad looks up and says, yeah, okay. And then he gets back to his phone, and he's not doing anything. He's just swiping. And you can tell he's not right. It's not like he's reading this article or anything. He is just swiping. He's probably on Facebook or whatever, right? The kid looks at him for a bit, then goes back to the window. And then once taken off, he's like, right? Then he runs back to the dad. And I want to go over and shake this guy. This kid is basically giving you in this moment. This is when you become a father. This is when you lay this groundwork. This is when you establish the basis of the relationship. Not at 16 or 17 when the kid is your size and he's feeling his Cheerios and now he wants to challenge you because you never had a relationship. And then you wonder why he doesn't want to talk with you now. And that's part of the point. The other part of the point is there are other kids sitting in those places and they're just on their phone nonstop. So they have all this information, but they're only looking at one thing. It's Facebook or it's Instagram or it's TikTok. So they're not gathering the data, they're not gathering the exposure. So if you don't go sailing, if you don't get on a small plane, if you don't go to Yosemite, all of that other stuff, they have no context of all the other stuff. Lack of context of history. Most of the things that are happening now have happened before. We just added more technology, but there's wars, there's this, there's that. There's never been a perfectly peaceful time. So if you don't understand it, you think this is the end of the world, and it may be, but this is not something weird or new. Look at the 20s, look at the 30s, look at the 40s, look at the 50s, look at the 60s. Look at the oil embargo in the 70s. Look at inflation in March of 1980, 14% in America, right? I mean, look at all of that stuff. So yeah, if you don't know anything, you're 23 years old. You're like, this is yeah, it is crazy, but this is not the first crazy. So my point is, with that historical perspective, you begin to say, okay, I get it. Long term, stock market goes up. Periodically, it goes down every 6 to 12 years substantially. Then it goes back up. And so it, right? Now, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, but apparently, long term, that thing happens. And you can look at a lot of things that way when you study history. You're like, oh, so when the stock market crashes again, and it will, do I sell everything in my portfolio? Or do I, like Warren Buffett, look for deals, right? Something 20, 30, 40, 50% off. It's still a good company. 10 years from now, it's still going to be here. It's 40% off. That's a buy. But if I don't have history, it's a panic.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing the modern day disconnect between parents and children have discounted. The gap is widening. And we take a little bit has to do with technology, and a lot of it has to do with not being able to connect with the children today. And as I see more and more kids going left rather than or growing, they're just going backwards. Would you agree to that, or what do you see?
Yeah, I see that. They have relationships with their peers and they speak a lot with their peers and they're very, very smart. But every generation blames the prior generation for things that are wrong. Every generation looks at the prior generation, just like we did, and say they're out of touch. What's different now is the generations of us and then our kids still had some key reference points in terms of knowledge. What's been supplanted is, instead of human knowledge where people sat at kitchen tables and looked back and forth and gave themselves visual clues like, oh, I see what you're saying. Like when I don't, I'm not teaching anymore, even though, but I just want to make sure you know, when I was teaching, and I was teaching undergrads, new students, management principles, organization, behavior, and management communication. And I come from a generation where, like you're looking at me and you sort of nod sometimes if I make a point. You're giving me these cues, like I hear you, I hear what, right, that kind of thing. Right? That's how we were raised to communicate. But here I am in the class, and nothing. I'm saying stuff, and they're staring at me like they're staring at a screen. I'm like, wow, that's different, right? So I'm not getting feedback. They're still smart. They're still getting some of the information. So I had to develop things to get these, I say kids, they're in their 20s and things, get these kids to come out and express. So it's on us, those of us who are in a position trying to communicate, to make sure we make it easy as possible and give them challenges, because they're very sharp, they're very intelligent, they're very quick. It's just they may not hear what we're saying. So one of the things that, and I do a lot of reading about what do you do with kids, because now I now have grandkids. And one of the things is you have to become a better listener and you have to ask better questions. So quick example, then I'll throw it back to you. So here you go. Like when we were in school, when you were 9, 10, 11 years old, and your mom said, how was school today? What did you say?
It was wonderful.
Yeah. Or you
Great.
said fine, right?
Yeah,
So back
yeah.
then we said fine. And the reason
Yeah.
we said fine, we knew if we said fine, she wouldn't ask you any more questions and be all up in your business, right? It's like fine, right? And that's the standard answer that kids give to push parents away. They don't want to say it's bad, because then the parents are like, what happened? They don't want to say it's good, because then the parents, right? So it's a better question. The better question would be, what happened to school today that made you laugh, right? Somebody passed gas in class, right? Which is the funniest thing in the 3rd and 4th grade, right? Say something that gets them to open up, right? I remember my mom when we were kids, and there were 5 of us, and then she married and we had 6, so there were 6 of us, and she was super, super busy. She was an RN. She
Yep.
created she was the den mother for the first campfire girl den in Baby Hunters Point. She did a lot of things, had a lot of certifications and all of that. But here's the thing, Abe, and I just so you guys know, I call him Abe. We go right, so he's out.
We go way back. I used to be at his house all the time, me, him, and his brother. So we hung out a lot, guys, a lot. Back in high school.
So I remember what she used to do. Like she could be doing anything, and he would come over to her and say, "Mom," and she would stop, turn, and look right at you. Now I knew she couldn't do that a whole lot, but all of us remember her doing that. And what that did with us, when someone looks right at you, she's saying, you are important. I'm going to listen to you, and you have worth. And just that little bit makes you feel better. So no matter what's going on, right? Your mother's giving you that. And she gave us all enough of that where all of us had, as pretty good self-confidence, right? We go into the world and do what we do. But I think that was part of it. She was like, yes, I'm busy, but for that 12 seconds, I'm going to stare right at my child. And I'm like, And then we talk about it, my brothers and sisters, and we're like, she couldn't have spent that much time with us with as busy as she was. She couldn't have, but she at least made us feel that we were important.
Mhm.
Now, this new parent who's on a phone and the kid says something and they glance at the kid and go back to the phone, that kid never feels that oneness. That kid never feels that attention, and that kid never has that same, it's self-worth, right? And I remember the movie Crow, one of the best lines I've ever heard. He said, "Mother is the word for God on the lips of children," right?
Mm.
Child says mother, right? That is literally God when you're 7 or 8 years old. You have nothing. This is this person who brought you here. She's literally everything, right? So if that person and then the father who's connected to that, if they give you time and attention, you begin to feel your worth. And then it becomes easier to be what you think you want to be because you feel you can, as
Mm.
opposed to you have no real connect. It's like, okay, I'll get out here. I don't know what to, right? Because you don't feel you're worth anything. You don't feel you can do anything. So it's
Right.
easier, to your point earlier, it's easier not to do and blame someone else for you not doing.
Mm. That's amazing. While we're on this educational part, will you give everybody the background of your credentials and everything, so people around the world
Sure,
can hear why you can talk on this matter?
sure, sure. So I, I originally wanted to be an attorney at first, and I took political science. And I have a AA degree in political science, and then I realized business was where it was at. So then I went to USF and I got my BS in business with a minor in accounting and minor in finance. And then I sort of raised my family. I was a major account rep for Xerox and doing things like that. And I realized I would needed to go to this next level. So I decided to get my MBA, and I graduated cum laude from Golden Gate University in San Francisco. While doing that, one of the tasks was, for lack of another term, my thesis was create a job that doesn't exist with a company, and ideally a headquarters company. I created a position, or at least I drafted a document that created a position, um, vice president of domestic emerging markets for Charles Schwab. At that point, the African American investor in America was about a $400 billion gross domestic product. Right now, it's 1.6 million. We're right behind Russia and right ahead of Brazil if you look at Black people spending in America. Anyway, it's 400 billion then. And so I went to Charles Schwab and said, "You need someone like me to do this," because at this point, people of African descent hadn't voted with their dollars for a particular financial advising firm. So we did that, and we did some things and never turned the corner in terms of putting the footprint on it. And then I went ahead and followed my next part of the dream. So then I went to law school and I got my doctor of jurisprudence, and I was the commencement speaker of my law class. So that's sort of the academic background. And
Right.
then after that, I was asked by the president of the university to teach. So I taught for 5, 6 years at Golden Gate University in the business program.
The reason why I asked that, because I love what you said, the next part of your journey, and that's a key point, ladies around the world, gentlemen around the world. The key point, he said, the other part of his journey. So he was on a journey. He just didn't stop. He saw where he was, and he wanted to continue his journey. And notice that. So I just wanted to bring that point out. Now, let me share something with you about William Wesley. I've been knowing him. We used to hang out together in high school, just a few years ago, and
Yes, about a
we
week ago.
yeah, a week ago. We were very, very, very close. We were hanging out all the time. He was my homeboy. We used to do
Mhm.
things together, me, him, his brother. And, today as I look back, I'm so proud of him because he took a route to be a real man's man. Let me describe what I call a man's man. He took the time out to raise a family and also raise men to know what it is to be a man. Number one. Number two, how a man's supposed to treat a woman, and being a great role model for us as I'm flying around the world. I'm still watching his progress, and then take his grandkids and watch what his kids did to raise his grandkids and saw how they did well. So to this day, if I remember correctly, he has 5 kids and 13 grandchildren. Am I right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, absolutely. And what was really cool this past weekend, when my oldest grandsons turned 18, his auntie, my daughter Ty, who's an RN in Texas, she has a family, her and her husband have 3 kids, and his uncle, William II, he and his wife have 3 kids. They also live in San Antonio. For Jordan's 18th birthday, they both flew up here for his birthday. I just thought that was right. I thought that was so cool. It's like, we were going to drop everything. It's his birthday. We got it on the calendar, and both of those kids are able to fly up. I came out of the projects, and I raised somehow suburban kids, which is really cool, right? Who have, let's swipe that card, let's get up there and do that for him. And so what it's about is it's family and it's relationships and it's feeding the culture. Jordan, the 18-year-old, will never forget his 18th birthday, where his auntie and uncle flew from Texas to be. They literally did a turnaround. They flew in Saturday morning. They flew back home to their families Sunday morning. And one of my favorite books, and I don't know if I've told you about it, they did a study, and this study is the longest ongoing study of human behavior. And the question was simply this: what is the single biggest factor that results in longevity and happiness? And they found the single biggest factor is relationships. And everything else sort of falls by the wayside. And when you look at men and women, men die before women on average, not because women kill us. We just go, right? Right. So on average, we die before, right? And so when you unpack that, what happened, first of all, biologically, right? They have some advantages and they're designed to last a little bit longer. But I think there's also another huge part. And the huge part is women, and this is not sexist, this is just what it is. Women as a group feed the culture. Women tend to make sure people in the family are talking. My wife will ask, have you called Rob? Have you talked to William recently? I'm like, I talk to him once a month. We're fine. She's like, well, right? She's more like, because I think it's fine, but still, it's feeding a culture. And I say that to say this: when a man passes, a woman is already in some kind of circle. She has her girlfriends. If she's in church, she's in the church circle. She may be a Rotarian. In other words, she has people she cares about and has relationships with, and she falls right into that when they grieve with her and they carry her, and she lasts another 5 to 7 to 9 years. When men become widowers and their wives leave, men last much less longer, because a lot of us just live in caves, right? We live in caves and we interact because our wives say, let's interact, for a lot of us, right? And then when that part stops, yeah, exactly. So we're like, right. And so when that part stops, we don't have a network.
Yeah.
We don't have
So
people
true.
we're connected. And then unless you have real reasons, maybe get a dog or something, but pretty soon it's like, why am I getting up every day?
Yeah.
And then you begin to decline, and it starts here, and then it transfers directly into the body. And then you see the body starting to fail because the life force is starting to fail. The person is not fired up getting up every day. They're not, okay, what am I doing?
Nothing to drive them.
Nothing to drive them.
I love what you also talked about coming up in the ghetto, because you guys live on Palouse. I know exactly what the house is at. And man, we spent many times at your mom's dad's house and
Yep.
Campbell. And you said something that I really want to go back to. What changed your mindset? You talked about you went and your mom took you to go see the Nutcracker.
Yeah. So
look
here
at you,
we are.
Look at your face. Your face even like, yeah. Look at your face. Yeah, warmed
what
up.
I've learned to do is really grab memories and say that felt good. And I'll talk about Nutcracker in a second, but I remember when we first bought a house, because originally, prior, let's say, I wouldn't say bad dad, but original dad, we were living in the projects. Then moved and lived with my grandmother as my mom left my James Wesley, my biological dad, and then a few years after that, she met Bob Campbell. We were in an apartment at first, and then they bought the first house, and that was the house on Palouse. So, and then life changed, right? We went to Yosemite and we did all these things, like, what the world? And we're exposed, right? But before that, it was just literally Hunters Point and then going to school and back and forth. But what my mom did, even when we were there on Christmas, she dressed us all up in our little one suit or one dress, right? And to get all creamy and shiny. And she took us downtown to the Nutcracker. And I didn't understand the Nutcracker, but I remember listening to the music, which I thought was fantastic, and just everything going on. They had these costumes and they're jumping around. And then to go back to the Bayview, and particularly go back to Hunters Point, it was such a different exposure. So between tennis and that exposure, and one other key exposure she gave us, oftentimes when we were doing our homework, she would call because she was working the double shift trying to build the money. She'd call and Di and James and me and Hugh and Dean. It was like, okay, nobody goes out go out to play until all the homework's done. And what happened was it caused the older ones to help tutor the younger ones. And then now and then we would have to stand up and read a chapter, read a paragraph to the others. And she said, keep your back straight, use diction, and look up from the paper. Right. So we were taught to stand up and do presentations. So what my mom was doing, even though we thought it was the most bizarre punishment, she was exposing us and conditioning us for life and being able to speak and talk and in different circles. So I'm comfortable in white circles. I'm comfortable in black circles. I'm comfortable in yellow circles. Right. It's just I'm comfortable as a person. So I just like you, I can go anywhere and talk to anyone about anything. And I think some people just have it. But most people develop it as an acquired behavior. They're exposed to it. So now they're not shocked when they're in these rooms. Like, what are these people? What do they do? They've been exposed.
Yeah. I love that. I was with the house so much. She called me her other son. I was there so much. It's amazing because I was always at the house. I was always at the house. You know, you said something that I want to kind of really touch bases on, which I think is a lost thing today with kids and coming up. Why don't you expand a little bit on the citizen of the household?
Yeah. So when we were coming, and so Bob Campbell was an go ahead.
I said I was there so much, you almost made me part of that too, but go ahead.
So Bob Campbell was a former drill sergeant with the Marines during the Korean conflict, right? And when my mom met him, in fact, this is funny that I'll go to the citizen of the household. When my mom met him and they started, dating and all that stuff. And there was a point where she said, okay, I'm going to take us, the kids, over to his house, right, to meet him, formulate his house. And we went in his house and I thought it was a setup, right? There was nothing on the counters and all of that. There was one dish rag and it was folded, right? There were no dishes in the sink, right? It's like, wait a minute, right? This is a setup. Nobody lives this clean. Right? And he was just organized and he handled his business. And Bob Campbell said, you can do anything you want to do once you do what you have to do. And when we caught the first part of that, which meant, oh, shoot, we can watch cartoons. And he's like, you can watch cartoons at 8:00, but you're cleaning up at 7.
Yeah.
Right. So what citizen of the household means is simply this. There are things that I, as the dad in the house, and my wife as the mom in the house, we go out, we work, make sure these lights are on and all of that. Our kids are grown, but back then, make sure this stuff works and there's food in the refrigerator and you can eat and all of that stuff. That's our job. We're not asking anyone to pay us any money for that. But as a child in that house at 3 years old, maybe your job is just to pick up the toys, right? At 5 years old, pick up the toys and try to make up that bed. At 7, pick up the toys, make up that bed, and help try to dry dishes, right? So, and there's no allowance for this. We're all in this boat. I have a big oar and you have your tiny oar and we're all rowing, right? This family is going wherever it's going and we're all rowing. No one's riding free. And we don't ask you to pay anything, but your pay is you're going to do some stuff around here. Now, this leads to budget and immediate and delayed gratification too, because at some point you say, okay, we're going to, and like Bob Campbell did with us, he crafted activities that he allowed us to have an allowance for. If you remember, our garage floor was painted. It was painted burgundy, right? Every 2 years or so, we had to paint that garage floor. Normally it was before the summer because we had the pool table and Di and all those teenagers would be in there. So we had to, anyway, that was one of the projects where we get pay. And there were several other projects where so you have citizen and household chores. Those are the chores you do because you live in this house. Then you have allowance. It says, let's say you get $20. Now, the lesson with this should be, if you receive $20, 1, you save half. So this teaches people how to save. 2, you can spend the rest, but remember your sister's birthday is coming up, right? Or something, right? So maybe some of that goes there. So 1, you get this delayed gratification saying, I put some money aside and mom and dad said, if I can get to $100, they'll match it and we'll buy a bike. Right. So that's delayed gratification. Immediate gratification, you have the rest of the money here, but also some goal setting because your sister's birthday is coming up. So if you set a 5 here and a 5 there, maybe you can push something there in addition to the money you have. So it's delayed gratification, immediate gratification, and goal setting around money. So it's citizen of the household chores, but it also expands into the biggest thing going on in America. A lot of us make money, but there was a survey done by CNBC a few years back. They looked at folks making between $200,000 and $300,000 a year, and they found that 36% of those folks are living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma said, "It's not what you make, it's what you spend." My grandmother, right? That's it. You know, that's
And
it.
also what you
Not that
keep,
we
yeah.
don't have money. Yeah.
Yeah, and so man, it's amazing how people don't save money. They can't afford to save money in this climate we're in today. But I like the idea you took the 20, you spent 10, another 10, you put in the savings. You're teaching at a young age how to save and how to invest, which I thought was amazing. I mean, uh, he was in Marines. You know, my dad was a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Oh
No.
my God! I mean, so
Sergeant, still called him Sergeant a whole lot. Yeah.
we would call him, but everybody called him Sarge. And matter of fact, I was so afraid of my dad that when I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I would make my bed. Because my dad brought that drill sergeant stuff home to the kids. You know, the guys come off the bus and the haircuts and the 5 mile run the next day, wake up at 3. I mean, that's my dad. That was him. And I thank him for that because it made me the man I am today. And I think a lot of us, you know, we don't understand that, but that's what it was in those days. And I thank God because it's still a lot of those principles in me to this day, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally understand being a Marine. Oh my goodness.
He was a rock. Yeah, he was a rock.
Oh yeah, my old man. You know, my dad. Hey, is a party going on? Can I go out? Yeah, be home. Be home. Be home. Yeah, be home at 9. Dad, the party don't start at 10. I know. Be home at 9.
Right.
No, Dad. Jerry said, did you hear what I said? It started at 10. Yeah. Do you hear what I said? I said be home at 9.
Exactly.
You know, so my, you know, at 21, I never forget thanking my dad because I didn't realize he was keeping me away from what's out there in those streets as a young man: drugs, alcohol, prison, jail. I mean, but as we grow older, we look back and we say, Dad, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. And I know you have done, and you have touched a lot of people's lives. And I love what you talked about earlier tonight about talking with the kids. So your relationships are so doggone important. You know, and I'm so proud of you. You've done a great job. Matter of fact, you got a book. Talk about your book. You got you copy your book there. And for those on the call, go ahead.
We'll be able to see it. Right. That's Full Life Balance.
Yeah, pull it this way a little bit because we got a little glare on it. Full Life Balance. And he's got a channel. You go to subscribe. Balance.com. Go ahead.
And then the other one is
there we go.
So the first one, Full Life Balance, is basically what I evolved into in the 90s and early 2000s in terms of my lifestyle, right? I had some bad behaviors, right? So I was doing some things that weren't healthy and all of that. And I had to regroup, reboot, and all of that. But the way I did it, I said, okay, what was I given between my grandparents and my parents and all of that? And they gave me enough to work with, but I went outside of that. And so when I became the person I have evolved into, and I'm still dynamic. I don't have this all together. We're all dynamic, right? But I decided I needed to really look at what I call spirituality, right? There's something bigger than us. And some folks are Christian, some folks are Muslim. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's something, and it's individual. You have to find where you are and know that there's something good and great, and you can feed into that. And the news is great. And get into habits like I meditate, 5 minutes a day and just sort of reflect. I used to do it longer, but in the morning I just sort of set the stage with meditation. At the night, I meditate for 5 minutes to try to reflect on the day. So whatever habits you have to basically center and realize there's something bigger than you, however you do that. But that's the spiritual key. Then the physical key, it takes energy to be successful. So that's diet, water, rest, exercise, and the release of endorphins, doing something fun like pickleball or tennis or something where you feel good and you get that rush. Then emotionally, and that's the huge thing, especially for males of African descent, right? In fact, a lot of us, not just males, but a lot of us may need mental health counseling, but very few of us get it, right? So unless you begin to say, you know what, I have to learn how to, one, forgive myself, and equally importantly, forgive others. So a lot of times we'll say, okay, I did this, I'm sorry, forgive me. And then that somebody else does that same thing, we hold the standard higher, right? If you deserve forgiveness, so does he or she. And things like this in terms of relationships. What if you got into a discussion and what if you said something and I took it the wrong way, therefore I responded the wrong way, and now we're dancing down the wrong street? What if I pull back and say, you know what, can we reset? I'm sorry. I just took that totally wrong. And a reset, because we're human, sometimes you're hungry or depressed or whatever, and you respond to something that the person wasn't even saying. So it's being not paranoid, but sort of self-reflective. And like the end of the day, like when we're done here, I'm gonna have a bite, and then I'm gonna sit and I'll spend a few moments just thinking about and try to bring my whole day together. Was I Gramon's grandson? Right? Was I, if she was sitting on my shoulder, would she say, "That's my grandson? That's my rubric. That's my target. I want her in heaven, if there is one, and I hope there is, I want her to say, that's my grandson, and I'm proud of him." And if that's your guide, you're probably going to try to cruise through life fairly okay. And then professional says, I've got skills, you've got skills, right? So it's not just saying, okay, and don't get me wrong, we need janitors, we need all walks, right? But that's not my gift. My gift is this other thing. So I do a disservice to those who put this gift in me if I don't live my gift. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I do these things. I'm also a Rotarian, and we're changing the world with kids and all of that. So if I turn my back on that, I'm doing a disservice to all those folks' shoulders I stand on. You have gifts. And if you don't live those gifts, then it's like, wait a minute, that's not Abe, right? Because he is this, right? That's what you've been
Yeah.
given, right? So that's
You know,
professional key, just maxing out your stuff. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I thought you were
And then the
finished.
final key is charitable, and that's where I'm a Rotarian, and we do these things. Our big things are youth and education, and food, and helping the elderly. And we do that. So that's full life balance. Then happiness is just you're happy, I'm happy, and I've sort of done some research to figure what are the 4 things that happy people do, and so that's what that book is about. And so it's laugh, listen, which leads to great relationships, care, have something to get up for, back to the husband and wife, something to get up for every day and go for it, and compare. Compare is the biggest ingredient in the formula for unhappiness. People comparing themselves to others, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls looking at Instagram and Facebook thinking they're supposed to look like them, or
Yeah.
being all this jealousy and all of that. But anyway, I cut you off. You were about to make a point.
No, you were fine because I thought you were finished. I apologize for cutting you off. See, it's like what you just talked about. I apologize. um, you know, my first book is on the channel, everybody, on the channel here, and it's called God's Gifts. And I wrote that book being that I know God gave us all different gifts, 3 gifts at minimum, I think we all have. And when you said that, I'm reflecting back to one of my billionaire mentors in Australia, Peter Daniels, and what your gifts and what your talents are. And you're supposed to stay, in your talents. Well, I remember his pastor saying, I need somebody, we're at a board meeting at the church, and he said, I need somebody to clean the church up. He put his hand up and said, I'll have it done. Notice this word, I'll have it done. He didn't say he was going to do it, but I'll have it done.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor came in that Saturday to go in the study to prepare his message for Sunday. And he noticed a stranger in there just whistling away, having fun, sweeping the floor. And he was shocked. He got to his office. He picked up the phone. He called Peter up and says, Peter, I thought you said you were going to clean the church. He goes, no, Pastor, you understand. I said I was going to have it done. And here's what he woke the pastor up. He says, Pastor, I make $200 at that time. I make $200 an hour. I can pay somebody $20 an hour.
Exactly.
That normally gets $10 an hour, and that's why he's whistling, because he's getting twice as much.
And everybody's happy. Yep.
Everybody's happy because my time is worth too much more. I could be making that money to pay him. And so the pastor, I think, grew that day. And that's exactly what I understand what you said by that. That's very powerful. And we all need to stay in our, as the kids say these days, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Yeah. Good
So I
stuff.
love it. Matter of fact, my second book just came out, which we're so excited about, a week or so, Entrepreneur Mindset to Wealth. And it's on Amazon. So I'm telling people, go grab it, because I talk about a lot of these principles and things. And that's, here again, like your lane, you're good at what you do. You always have been. And I'm proud of you to look through the years and the decades from you knowing each other. Was it 2 decades? Anyway, look through the years and see that you have just grown and flourished, and then teach these principles to your 5 kids and 13 grandkids and the world and corporate America. So you're definitely walking in God's given gifts that He's given you. So I want to say I'm proud of you. I thank you as a dear friend, and I love you, man. And folks, I hope you guys around the world got a lot out of this today. Find out your gifts. Go get his books. Go on the channel for free and get God's gift. Go ahead, sir. Give me a few words in closing.
Well, I'm looking at a poster behind you, right? And that's Godfather 3. I don't even count that as a Godfather movie, man. It's Godfather 1. Godfather. In fact, I have a big poster downstairs in my pool room that has Marlon Brando. Anyway, but final words, it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
Every
never.
day you get up and you thrive. I mean, if you can get up and shout, yes, I don't shout it anymore. It's more in my mind because I got a wife, right? But it's like, yes, yes, every day. Find your reasons. If you don't have one, it's all around you. All you have to do is grab it. Find your skill set, right? And I think we
Hmm.
talked about this on the podcast where we said, you know, if you do what you love, you may never work a day in your life, but it may take some time to get to that point, right? So if you like to paint, you might still have to work because you might not be a good enough painter to make money painting and artistic painting. So still paint on the weekends, teach kids painting, but you still got to get to work and go for it. I enjoy speaking, but it's taken years to get to where I want to be. And I'm still trying to be the next thing in terms of the level. And I have to write and all of that stuff. And it's taken what it's taken. Everything I've ever done has led to this point. Everything you've
Hmm.
done, Abe, has led to this point, but it doesn't stop. So I look at this as this journey, and I'm on the road, and there's so much more. And I'm fired up every day. I'm
I love
literally
it.
fired up every day.
I
So
love it. By the
be
way,
fired up.
my Godfather 3, the only I love there wasn't the best of the three series, but that was
No,
Al
it
Pacino.
wasn't.
But see, this is this is a collector's piece because Al Pacino actually signed it.
Ah,
You
okay.
see his signature? You see his
Then
signature
I see
right
it.
there?
It's in what? Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you a pass.
It's about 8 times what I paid for it now.
Right.
So it's a
Right. So
plaque.
it's
It's a
fine.
lot of things I invest in. I invest in things that go up in value. Like most
Very good.
entrepreneurs, that's how I look at it. That's why I got it. It was
Well
yeah.
played, sir. Well played.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's just not just a regular. No, it's gone up. It's and I can like fine art. When things get bad, I notice that a couple of things that wealthy people do. They have land, they have gold and
Mhm.
silver, and they have fine art. And I've been investing in art, different type of artwork that have done very well through me through the years. So I've bought some and I've sold some. So
Yep.
hey, ladies and gentlemen around the world, we could probably go in another segment on this alone.
Yep.
Uh, Gosh, we go so far back. High school buddies are still together. We get together, we talk occasionally because he's got a busy life now. He's traveling and doing seminars around the country. He's got his second book came out, and he's just developing to a person that well sought after speaker and has done a great job. As you can see tonight, for the time we spent today, the 45 minutes so we've had this call today from start to finish, you can tell the nuggets of wisdom that he gave us. So I want you guys to do something special for me tonight. Send this out to these 7 people that need to hear this, whether parents, grandparents, even children. But let them hear something that's a loss, I should say, something that's been lost in our generation today, where people and parents would sit and talk to their kids without all the interruption, or sitting at the dinner table where everybody's on their phone rather than having a conversation and talking to one another. So, Mr. God, Wesley, thank you so much, my friend.
Hey,
Kenny, I
it's
call
been
him
my
Kenny.
pleasure. It has been my absolute pleasure. As we always do when we get together, we feed each other, right?
Yeah,
You got a lot, I got a lot, but we end up more because we feed each other and put it out there. So thank you
yeah,
again, my friend.
right. Well, ladies and gentlemen around the world, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and some of you out there still haven't subscribed around the world, so hit the subscribe button. Come on, hit the
Mhm.
bell notification so you get the latest ones when we come out with it. And for that, we want to thank you, Dave, for spending time with us. And my dear friend, William Wesley, sounds so weird calling him William when I call him Kenny Wesley. So
It's
God
all
bless.
good.
That's all good. Take
All
care,
right.
everybody. God bless. Have a wonderful. God bless. Thank you.